Okay, it is Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Me and Alex just showed up at the Silver Lake Trails. And like good scouts, we reviewed the map. We made our plan. We did a pre-trip report. My wife knows where we are and where we're going. And what we plan to do is walk down and clear all these trails of all the winter debris, all the sticks and limbs and tops and such that fall down and block the trail. We're going to put a couple hours into that, and then we're going to do a video on setting up a survival shelter. Okay? Hi Alex, how you doing?
Good.
You ready to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's off to the races. No sparing the horses here. First time we've seen the sun in almost a week. It's about 42 degrees out. Here we go. Some first debris in the trail, clearing it off. So now we're at the campsite. Actually, it looks in pretty good shape. I thought maybe we'd be picking up some litter around here, but looks like there may have been some people in here cleaning up already, because it looks like some bigger trees have been bucked up. View of the lake. Ice is completely out. We were here last week and there was still ice on the edges and spots. Nice day. We ran into our first fairly good-sized obstacle. We're going to clean the branches off of this. We're not going to buck the whole thing, just enough so people can walk through the trail here without getting poked in the eye. You wouldn't think these folding saws could do any amount of work, but I'll tell you, I've only been at this for about 15 seconds and I've already gotten halfway through this 4-inch piece of pine that's down. And now we have a path through here. A lot better. About 5 minutes worth of work. So Alex and I have been looking around for a spot to set up his emergency shelter, and I think we finally found us a spot. We've got a couple of trees that are about 10 feet apart, relatively flat ground without a lot of debris, and we're going to set this up. We're actually on the shores of Silver Lake in Bucksport right now. So Alex has got in his hands a Bivy tent,
A Bivy sack,
Bivy sack and a life tent. And Alex, what can you tell me about those?
Well, these things are very easy to set up. It's only about like 5 or 10 minutes to set these things up, maybe even shorter. The one problem with them though is that you use them once and they might as well be trashed.
Yeah, they're pretty delicate.
In the
you can't
wilderness,
kick around a lot.
in the wilderness, they're gonna get ripped up. They're made out of kind of cheap materials, so like you need to find decent branches, like to hold it down and stuff like that, or else it's just gonna rip.
So why is that better than just building a shelter out of sticks and like a debris shelter or a lean-to?
Well, let's say a storm is coming and you need to set up something fast.
That's a good idea when you need something quick, yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to, when there's going to be a storm in a few minutes, you're not going to have time to go out, collect a bunch of wood, find a good tree, and then try and like set up some sort of shelter with it.
How long does it take to build a debris shelter or a lean-to typically?
Typically, a decent one will take, made out of wilderness, would like 3 hours maybe.
Yeah, about 3 hours of good steady work. And when I went through Sierra, it took 2 of us 3 hours to do it, and it was kind of it wasn't the best shelter in the world. So these things aren't that sturdy, but if you take care and you take your boots off when you get inside the bivvy and get inside the tent, they're okay. They pretty much are a one-time use thing. These have been out a couple of times, so you'll see duct tape all over them. But this is where we're going to set it up. It's pretty simple setup. Pretty much you run a piece of paracord through the tent, tie it to the trees, and then put some supports inside it, and we'll show you how that's done. So Alex, can you pull the life tent out of the sack and show us what we got?
Let me move this out a bit. All right. So when you first open these things, when you first buy them, you'll usually find a good solid amount of paracord.
And that's what we're going to use for a ridge line.
And it's a little tight in there, so
Yeah, they're pretty hard to get back in once you get them out.
yeah. And something that when you look at it, you'd probably think it would be a trash bag, but that's actually made to look like that, so it can hold in heat.
What's that silver part do, since it's on the inside?
So it reflects light either in there
Light
or
and heat.
out.
Yeah, right. Light will hold your heat in. I'm gonna have to shut the camera off for a second and help Alex get this rigged up because it's kind of a two-man job. You can do it one person, but this, like I said, this has been out a couple of times, so it's pretty delicate. So it's just a big tube of material, and we're gonna run a ridge line at about waist height through it and tie it up, and I'll be back in just a second. So we got the tent kind of open and stretched out, and now I'm gonna feed this piece of paracord through the tent to Alex.
Did you take some slack off?
So we got the paracord in there, and he's gonna tie a taunt line hitch against this tree at about 3.5 feet off, a little bit lower than that. Yeah, right about there, about 3 feet off the ground. We'll tie a taut line hitch. It goes through here, as you can see, and then we'll tie it to this other tree, and that'll give us our stability. So while Alex is over here tying his ropes, I'm getting a couple of poles, and all you do with these is set them inside. They're just kind of weights to keep the sides puffed out. One thing I want to show you though, this thing is pretty thin and delicate. This tent, you really have to cut these kind of nubs off and make sure that it's smooth, because anything like that is going to snag and tear. Okay, so we got the ridge line up between the two trees, tied with what kind of a hitch?
Taut line.
Taut line hitch. We got our poles inside, kind of in the corner, and now we're opened up. So the next thing to do is to take the bivy sack out. That's your little mini sleeping bag.
Now it's made out of the same material as your tent, but this thing is thin, but it holds in about as much heat as 3 normal blankets.
So it's just a really thin mylar, which is what this material is called, mylar sleeping bag. And I really recommend that you don't fool around with this until you're actually ready to use it, because it tears pretty easy.
Especially this.
And don't get into it with your hiking boots on. So pretty much you would take this out of its bag, open it up, put it inside the tent, and then climb into it carefully and spend the night. And I mean, it's not a great shelter. You can see the poles that we put in the corners there, just to kind of give it some stability, some shape. Not great, but it's better than the sharp stick in the eye. The biggest thing is, like Alex said, is really easy to put it up. It only takes a minute. You want me to take half of that and we can spread it out?
Yeah.
If you've seen Mylar blankets before, the space blankets, this is pretty much the same theory, except it's sealed in on one end. That's pretty much it. So here's our open end. There's our closed end. And it's just a basic Mylar sleeping bag. But, you know, in a pinch, that'll save your life right there.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think it took us 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. Between 5 and 10 minutes for 2 of us to set this up. One person could do it. It's just a little tricky to get the string, the paracord rigged up. It's, you know, we're still learning how to do this stuff. Really, if you were going to do this, what I would recommend is, if you're going to get one of these, get 2. And use one for practice, like Alex and I have done here, and use the other one for the real thing, and don't take it out till the day comes that you need it. Because you can see on the seams here, I've had to put quite a bit of duct tape already. We've had it out, I guess this is the 4th time. So have a training model and a real model, okay? So Alex, what do you think?
I think we did good.
All right, any last words?
No.
All right, we're out.